Okay, well, we're testing today. We started this stream at 3 minutes before 3 o'clock, and we'll see how accurately the startups are. We're using the Cube and Core dashboard, and so we're asking today to start up iTV Studio live stream and to set up the Facebook live stream. And we'll see just how accurately that is. In the background, you'll see my prompter, and I'll just check that the prompter is actually working, and it's not. So I'll go over there and click on it. We'll see if the prompter starts scrolling down, and it does, and so that looks good. I hope I'm not getting a cold. My son Rob has had a pretty serious cold for the last few days, and it may be going around. Today I've turned off the lights over my head, and it seems to have eliminated most of that shine that we were worried about. Let's double check that my Studio HD switcher is working, but it's not. And let's check that this one is working, and it's not. Definitely got some problems with these fellows working reliably. So we've got Metaphysicist on SR, and we've got SR on our screen, which is the Metaphysicist. So let's just change that to SL. That way, when I look at myself behind me, I will see the screen. For my Information Philosopher website. Hi, I'm Bob Doyle, and I'm the Information Philosopher. I'm webcasting to you from my iTV studio in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Now, behind me on my whiteboard screen, I'm showing my website, The Information Philosopher. My goal with this website is to reach out to philosophers and scientists around the world to help solve a large number of great problems in philosophy, in physics, in biology, and psychology. My Information Philosopher website is the major set of resources that I've put together to help. I see. I just didn't get a sound behind me this afternoon. Okay, this is my fifth maybe practice session working up to next Monday, and at that time we'll be looking at a regular schedule. Let's see if I can show this schedule to you. DSK color 2. No, I cannot. Very interesting. Let's just go to my bio and then change the color. Oh, there we go. So my plan is to have a different topic on each day of the week. I will be webcasting between 3 and 4 every day. The first lectures on Mondays will be based on my book, Great Problems in Philosophy and Physics, which, let's see if I can switch under now to show you my overhead camera, and the answer is no, I can't do that. Interesting. So I'll turn this one off and go to the overhead camera, and need to learn my management of these different cameras. So I'm here, I'll just go to, say, this setting, and it shows you my Great Problems book, which I hope to have as the topic of my Monday lectures. On Tuesday, let's see if I can bring this one up, PSK2, and put some color in. Right. On Tuesday, my lectures will be based on my second book, which is Free Will. I published this in 2011, and it is one of the oldest problems in philosophy, and I believe we've had a lot of progress on it, a lot of interest in it in recent decades, after a period in the 20th century when the problem of free will had been decided in favor of compatibilism, in which case our free will is really compatible with the physical determinism of the laws of nature, so-called the laws of physics, and other laws thought to exist in biology and even in psychology. On Wednesdays, I would like to take some materials. Let me turn this back to 3 and turn this off, and then change my view here for a moment. I'd like to be talking about philosophers and scientists from my website, and what we want to do there is show you my website. This is, as I mentioned at the beginning, my major contribution to people around the world who I hope will be interested in the latest ideas about problems in philosophy and physics and biology and psychology. The Information Philosopher website has on its left side a very large number of philosophers. Let me just go there for a moment. I want Information Philosopher. Yes, go. And I'll just switch back to this one, because here I'd like to expand this view so you can see my list of philosophers. I've been reading these philosophers, they're here organized in alphabetical order, for about 60 years, really, since my first interest in philosophy back at Brown University as an undergraduate in the 1950s. Through the years, I basically collected their works, books, and anthologies of many of them, and then some of the individual books. And I've made many marginal notes in those books and taken notes on these different thinkers. And then in the last 20 years, I've been building pages on each of them for my website here, Information Philosopher. Some of these pages are quite extensive. Others are just brief and hardly more than you'll find on a Wikipedia page. You should always start with a Wikipedia page, or go to Wikipedia to find the basic biological information about any particular thinker. But then the kind of deep criticism that I am going to do and help you to do, and hope you will help me to understand these different thinkers, for that you really need to come back to my Information Philosopher website. Here's my page on Dan Dennett, for example. Let me shrink that back up again for a moment. And you'll see that I've identified Dan as a compatibilist. So on the free will problem, he's made up his mind that we don't need any chance or indeterministic opportunities for the brain to do something original, in the sense that it could have done otherwise. It had alternative possibilities. Instead, Dan likes to think that his work shows that free will is completely compatible with determinism. Now, one of the things I'll do on individual pages as we go forward is to look up YouTube lectures, in this case by Dan Dennett, and show that we can actually have him present a lecture, and I can excerpt sections from that lecture. In this case, I'm not sure I have the sound, so let me take a look at this for a moment. And sure enough, we don't have the sound. And I figured out what that problem is, so here comes Holly into the room. Sit down. I've made so many mistakes today. The whole system shut down. My switcher was cold and turned off, and I had to turn it back on again, so forth. Let's see. Let me go to camera 5. Okay, I've got to, there we go. And on camera 5, I can switch over to this position. And here we see Holly on the screen. Thank you for being here. I had 5 or 6 problems in the last 20, 30 minutes. I've fixed most of them, but not the loss of sound in this. So let's see if I can go to another page here. Let me go to SR, right, click over here, and see if I can bring up another page and put in Dan Dennett. Whoops. So this, having somebody here is not exactly helpful because I'll be feeling like I ought to talk to you. Let's look at, right, what I'm doing on screen. It says I'm going to go to Information Philosopher. Let's go there. And now on the keyboard, I'll put the keyboard away. You see that go away. Expand the screen. That's what's nice about the Surface Pro. Go back to Dan Dennett. See if I can find him again. There he is. And now this time when we go to his page, we'll scroll down and find that video and listen to it here. And we still don't have any sound, which is very strange. I believe that problem maybe has to do with this sound going up. Nope, I definitely don't hear Dan. And yet I see that input, aha, everything has been reset. And so many things are reset, Holly, that I just hardly have anything working. Let's see if I could hear Dan's sound. I can't find the mouse, Holly. There it is, there it is, there it is. So Dan should be on this channel.
From every other species. And
there
the
he
key
is,
to
but
it
he's a little soft.
Is that we,
and I think I know why.
Don't
Let's
just
turn that
act,
one off, and we ought to find him on this one as
desire
well.
and say no. Everything you want, or
Oh, it's a
should
little
want,
louder.
in the way of free will.
I think it's
you can
going
have
over.
on this
We'll
picture.
test later when we
some
watch this show whether
traditional
it's already
notions of free will
acceptable. But let
that
me
turn
turn
out
him
to
up a
be
little in the
impossible
room.
on this view. Tough, but why do you want them? They're not important. They are.
Oops, I restarted his show. Let's just make every possible mistake here while you're here. And notice when I turn the sound up, my own sound gets echoey, so we don't need echoes. Turn it back down. See if I can possibly get back to Dan, and the answer is probably no. And the sound is pretty soft. And that's here on number 7, and I'm more or less.
Most people think consciousness, whatever it is just supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. It's something so wonderful, 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 wonderful that we have to
So one thing I
divide
can
the
do
universe
is
in two
suppress
to
my
make
own
room for it.
sound.
All on one side,
Let's
all
take
by
this
itself.
one
And
down.
I understand why they think that,
take
and
this
I think it's
one.
just wrong. It is wonderful. It's astonishingly wonderful, but it is not a miracle, and it isn't magic. It's a bunch of tricks.
I think I can
And
get him pretty loud.
it really is. I like the comparison with
without any
magic
feedback.
because stage magic, of course, is not magic. It's a bunch of tricks. And consciousness is a bunch of tricks in the brain.
Do that.
And we're learning what those tricks are and how.
Pause him. Come back to me. Now my sound I've turned down. And so if you listen to this coming back later, we'll see it's rather soft, and I turn it up to here. And now I should first have turned down the screen in order not to have the echo. When I'm in the screen at around 17, I get no echo, and I can turn my sound up, which is here. And then that's the kind of sound I showed you on the playback this morning. It's pretty strong. But we could say I've sort of gone off the rails on my metaphysics page, which is what I'm supposed to be doing today. I can go here. And I've told people about the Information Philosopher website and the fact that along the left-hand side I have lots of philosophers. Right now I need to go to have that on screen. I have to go here. Here's the Metaphysicist website. And if you look closely, you'll see it's actually buried inside my Information Philosopher site. But in order to show you that easily, I have to go back here. I should have had this all set up, except today I ran into so many problems I really couldn't get myself set up. So here we are at metaphysicist.com. Let me show you what I'm looking at. And you see it, the Google page on my program monitors, but not on that big one because I don't have program up there. And I'm going to go to metaphysicist.com, start that. And now with my mouse on the screen, I can do things I can't do on the Surface. The Surface, you cannot see my mouse, you can't see my hand. But here, you can see that I have the introduction section of the Information Philosopher. But below it, there's another set of drop-down menus, so it gets quite complicated. Now, at that level, I can find all the topics, all the problems that I'm working on in the Metaphysicist. And I can see the puzzles, which sort of second half of the book. Ancient puzzles, most of them, although some have been repeated in modern times. Frege had one, which is 100 years ago or so, and this Tibbles the cat is relatively new. Then I have a history section, which goes from the early pre-Socratics thinking about metaphysics through Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, the Stoics, the skeptics, and so forth, right down to today when the idea of what's called modal logic has become the claimed new tool for doing metaphysical thinking. So over here I also have a new drop-down which lists those somewhat ancient, some ancient, but mostly relatively modern people who are back into metaphysics as the subject is recovering. For example, Ruth Marcus, most prominent woman to contribute to this field, got into a tangle with Saul Kripke over the problem of identity and the idea that goes back to Leibniz. And I see I haven't given us a Leibniz page, but we'll see that story of Leibniz, and maybe he deserves his own page. And so that's my Metaphysicist page, and now let's take a look again. You see, I've basically captured all the links to the philosophers, but I have a separate set of links that goes to modern metaphysics. I call them metaphysicians, but I call myself a metaphysicist because I really stress the idea of information as the basis of what I'm doing and the physical world at its most foundational level. Here's a link to my book, Metaphysics. Let's just open that for a moment. Let's open it in a new tab, and then I can go to that tab. Showing you how to navigate my website is a really important thing. It's not loading. Here we go. And what I'd like to show you here is that we have the book, Metaphysics, okay, but we also have every page of that book. Here's the cover that you just saw, here's the back cover, and here are all the chapters. These chapters are in the form of PDFs, and so you can take a PDF. Here's the one on abstract entities chapter. Causality, chance is an interesting one. So in principle, we can click on this and say open in a new tab. And it looks like it's actually appeared. Here we are on chapter 5 of the book. And you can download this chapter without buying anything and study it in your own leisure. So coming back to Metaphysicist, as I explained in my introduction, all my work is to look at things in terms of information, which is neither matter nor energy, although it needs matter to be embodied in our brain, for example, and energy to be communicated over the internet. This lecture is coming to you thanks to energy, communication energy in the form of electromagnetic signals. So I like to argue that the ancient problem of the status of ideas, the so-called ontological status of ideas, was put up as a question to Plato. Plato had the idea that ideas were in fact the originals of everything that we see on the planet, that these ideas existed in a kind of realm or real sphere that led us to understand all the things we see around us as poor copies or imitations of these perfect ideas, like a perfect circle. However, we could perhaps jump right to Plato, who's not in my list of metaphysicians, because I guess that's what I've said here. I'm saying modern metaphysicians, and that's probably. I did leave. Yeah, here's a good one. Let's look under history. So, thinking of him as a metaphysician, using the everyday term, Plato's greatest contribution was to promote his forms or ideas. Indeed, Plato coined the modern word, which comes from a Greek word for idea, ideia in Greek, from the past tense of the verb to see. For Plato, ideas are something we have seen when our souls made their great circuit of the heavens before coming to earth. Plato was inspired by Pythagoras, and other than Pythagoras, whose fundamental understanding of reality was based on mathematics, the other pre-Socratics were all materialists. Now, as another thinker on the subject, Socrates had no interest in the material world and their physical theories. He wanted to understand the human being and our ethical values. He famously insisted that virtue is knowledge. So anyone doing an even evil thing must be doing it out of ignorance of the good. This actually is an idea that's around many modern moral theories, that somehow the only free acts are ones that you did because you chose the good rather than evil. So since we're trying to understand knowledge, it's kind of ironic. Here's my knowledge drop down, the so-called problem of knowledge, and many other aspects of it, like meaning. Socrates spent his life showing that very few, if any, people understand what it is to know anything. He claimed he himself didn't really know anything. Okay, well, let's see. The one idea I wanted to do here is show people around the different, explain the different resources that I've tried to provide. The first and most important one are these websites. My Metaphysicist website, and maybe I can switch to my Information Philosopher website. Those two websites contain thousands of pages, which I hope to keep adding to over the years, and maybe eventually I'll find other people who want to do philosophy based on information, and they may come to be editing these pages. I'm going to just bring up another page here. Nope, I can't do that. Quite a problem, Holly. It turns out I can show the information philosopher page right there, but it's very hard to drive around it. So let's go from that version, which is the version that easily squeezes and grows and can be positioned, so I can actually push it off to the left or the right. Well, it needs a bigger version before I can really push it off to the right. This is a very nice interface. It's like the iPad interface. It has a touch screen, and the idea that you can squeeze it and expand it. But let me come back to the version which is on a PC. And the PC version, I have to do things like take it to full screen here. And then my changes of size are all done discretely. I can only get a particular size here, which doesn't fill the screen. If I try to get it to be one larger, you see it's cutting off letters at the right-hand side. However, in this case, I can do wonderful things like drop down the menus, show you the menus, and then go to the particular menus that's involved. I wanted to then say, besides the website, the other things I've provided as resources to people thinking about working in information philosophy are my books. Here are links to the books. My Information Philosopher. My first book was on free will, second book on great problems in philosophy, and the third one we just went to look at over on the books pages. Let's just click here to show you that you can navigate straight away to the second of my books that came out September 2016. Okay, so I have built these websites, one on information philosophy in general, and the other one on metaphysics. I've also then written these few books, and I'd like to show you that I have, if I go to Information Philosopher, I have for many years had a blog on information philosophy, and I have only recently, November 1st, brought it back to life, and because although I've been writing it for years, from 2008, I used to pretty much contribute to it every month, but then I stopped in June 2011 when I got my first book out and focused on books for the next few years. But now I've decided to talk about what we're doing next, which is these lectures online. My blog is about to change, I say here, because I'm adding a new way to disseminate my ideas. This new way is webcasting, something I've been calling iTV Studio. I've been calling it webcasting with my iTV Studio, and I'd like to show you that for a moment. So let's just go here and enter iTV and see whether it comes up. It doesn't quite. I just want none of those. That's too bad. That's what we need. And I need to squeeze this screen down a little bit. They come up at sort of arbitrary sizes. But here I can show you with pictures what's in the room. I'm actually sitting at a chair in front of this whiteboard with colored lights coming down on me, and we can actually go away from this and take a look from the back of this room. In that way we can see that Holly's here with us, and we see that the program screen is showing this view, so I get an infinite regress of, and I can come back here for a moment and show you the view from over my head. Below me I have, let's take a look at that with a real shot. And you see I have an array of screens that we've been talking about. The center screen is an iPad, and it lets me switch between cameras. So if I was to touch one of these, I would, for example, come back to my front camera. Go back here again, and you'll see on the left I have a screen that has on it the information philosopher, I believe. So let's shrink it down a little bit. You probably can't see that quite on screen, but let me then touch and show that's what's there. Come back again. Over on the right, I have another screen, and it's showing the Metaphysicist webpage. And I can touch on that and bring up the Metaphysicist webpage. So we've got a really wonderfully powerful setup here. And if you go to iTV Studio, you'll see my work over the past few years. In this picture, I've just got myself on those two screens, which are Microsoft Surface Pro, so I can touch the surface and move images around really nicely. Now behind those I have what are called extended desktops from my main computer, and actually the pictures there are not too easy to see. Over on my left, let me take an angle view of that. Let me come back to 5 and then press number 1, I think. Over on my left, I have this screen which is called a multi-view screen. And that's not the best view of it. Let's try camera 4. Nope, that's not a very good view of it either. So I'll come back here and describe it as having a program output and a preview of the next possible screen. And below, you see I have several screens. Let me take a look at this from this camera by going to this view. Oops, now I get a complete, here I can bring the multi-view, I think, up on that. No, I can't. I get a very strange video feedback with a delay between each frame and the next. And that's because I can't, there we go. So here's another picture of the tools I have in front of me. I have 1 camera, 2 cameras, 3 cameras, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are in here. The one with the overhead view on my book. And well over to the right corner, I have a media screen, which brings in whatever view is on my it's kind of circulating around, and because it's currently showing this page, we see I can move it up and down, and I'll come back to that page as I talk to you just a little bit more about, we go, that's my multi-view, and at the moment the multi-view is showing what's on program. Here you see me changing on the program page in the upper left, and as the program page changes, it's coming from the VIO PC in the lower right. It's a wonderful set of tools that I have, and the problem is, can I learn to use them well enough to navigate around and teach you about philosophy and physics and metaphysics. This camera, let's come back to, I'm sort of a bit lost as to where I am at the moment, because we should be on the VIO, and instead we're seeing, well, it turns out that's just what's playing on my my VIO PC. The question is, why am I not seeing something like myself? So here I am, and I can still put on my screen, instead of a multi-view, I can probably put on what's coming in from the VIO. Let's see if I can do that. Right. So now you see what I have here on my whiteboard. I've mounted a monitor, and here I can describe what's on the page that documents my 4 years' work building a studio. One of the key things about a studio is that when I look at a camera, this little telescope dome looking thing is one of my cameras. Every camera needs to have a screen that shows me the current program and that I'm maintaining eye contact with you. For example, let me just go to this page, and I see it's now showing Holly on the program screen, not on that big screen. But when I go here, I'm now looking at camera 4. If I were to look at camera 2, I'd obviously not be looking in the right place, but by paying attention to which camera I'm on, I maintain eye contact. Let's see if that particular camera I can do anything like zooming in on myself. No, it just shows the view from camera 4 with Holly in the lower right-hand corner, and the big main screen below that white pull-down screen that we use for movies on Saturday and Monday nights. So let's come back. While I'm looking at the camera 4, let me switch to camera 3, and you see I'm looking off in the wrong direction. Here's Holly's head right in front of us, right here. But if I come around now, there's Holly's on that screen as well. And let me put that back up on, let's see, program. That's very strange. Right. What I'm thinking about now is why when I'm looking at camera 3 and I touch this one, well, that does change to my right-hand Surface Pro with the metaphysicist on it, and the left one is my other Surface Pro with the information philosopher on it. But nothing has changed on that screen, or has it? Yes, it has. This is something you'd only appreciate with someone in the room. You're the first person who's been in the room while I've been trying to drive around in these things. So, let's see. It's now 34 minutes into the program, and I can show you another view of the room, which allows you to see my setup on my conference table, and also the fact that at the back of the room there are 4 so-called backhaul monitors that let me see programming coming in from CCTV, from Facebook, my own self, or my program, and then YouTube. However, I need someone like you to go over there and kick those screens and try to navigate to the current page, which the YouTube was working well for a while. When I started the stream, it would start streaming over there, and I could look over and see myself with a few seconds delay. But that isn't working at the moment. So let's come back to my page. Oh, I see what I do. Put program up on the big screen for Holly. And here's a picture of the back screens, the CCTV. Rather faint, so you can hardly see a ghostly looking me on the program screen. This was a snapshot of Facebook playing, and that's the YouTube screen. Below here is one of my iTV studio cases that I built with my grandson Carter. We built 9 of these, and they support multiple cameras out in the field. Today I've taken all the technology that goes into this suitcase and I put it into the room here. Now here is a link to a YouTube. In this case, it's a link to my own recent YouTube, the one I did yesterday. So let's see how well this works. And I see right away I don't have any sound, which is too bad. But here I am showing you a video that I made yesterday and I sent to YouTube. And you see it coming back. One thing that I was concerned about earlier in the day, Holly, is those light spots on my forehead. So let me go away from that for just a moment, come to this view, and on camera 3, come back to this view. And notice I've gotten rid of those without putting any makeup on me, right? And how did I do that? I turned off the lights over my head. It wasn't the lights facing me that were producing those things, and I look rather natural. I studied a few videos about putting makeup on, and just having the lights in the right places does the job as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so let me come back here, and you see that I'm talking about William James on our free will lecture. This was actually, oh no, it was yesterday's lecture on philosophers, but that's a playback. Now you might say, why don't I solve the audio problem? Because it's the only problem I wasn't able to fix after the whole system shut down this morning. And I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh yes, it was the my third switcher. My third switcher, let's see, go later there. I'm going to go down here and go to my third switcher. There's my mouse right here, and I'll say this one perhaps. Yes, and so I'll go into this one, and somehow in my audio settings here, you can't see these, Holly, the VIO sound doesn't seem to be coming out, and why is that? Something about being on. No, we don't want that. It does seem as if it might be working right now, and I have no real explanation for why I can't get the sound that accompanies my driving around on the Information Philosopher website. I do see it. I do see the sound. So it seems like it's another problem. Okay, let me come back into the room. And even though I've turned off the lights over me, it doesn't seem to have made me look more unnatural, although I have a sort of red hair over here and a blue hair over here. It's maybe it makes it more separated from the background. Yeah, okay. Well, that's nice. Okay, so I've fixed several things, and my core system, which I use here to go and to the internet, had shut itself down. I had to log in again. I had a lot of trouble logging in, whereas when I was using the video, it really was. It stayed on for days and days, but these guys log you out, apparently, for no good reason. I had to sign in again. So I think this is sort of fun. Let's show you something about using what's called a DVE. Now, it would be nice if I could move it to the right instead of the left. Now, that's sort of... So one of these, here I'm live on this screen, but if I have the other screen being the VIO, what happens is that's me yesterday on the left-hand side looking down, and that's me today. So maybe I should just take the today version and make it be the same view. Sure. It does seem like it sort of is. See, I'm describing what I'm doing there, so I can put this over here. And it doesn't quite come out to be the same thing. So maybe I should cut off because I'm nowhere near giving a lecture. I'm just sort of talking to you about everything. This is. Let me show you this for a minute. I have to always click over in this screen, there, that little mouse, and then I can actually move my prompter script. So it turns out these things I say are just too abstract. I can't show you that, except I might use camera 4. Let's go to camera 4 for a moment and see where we are with 4. I can probably zoom in and then down a bit. And if I do that well, I can then put my prompter screen on camera, and you'll see it has the little camera like a little observatory dome in black. And now when let's see, I need to take camera 4 to online. Let me go back here. Here I am showing the little prompter and my color markers for my whiteboard, and I'll show you how I'm able to scroll. Information needs matter to be embodied in our brains, for example, and it needs energy to be communicated, like this lecture coming to you over the internet. Now that's our real lecture, and that's our real studio clock, so that's 42 minutes. And another problem I'm going to have is that because I didn't fix the sound coming in, see what that is. Here I am talking about my lecture schedule. Go back over here. I won't get the sound to come on to end the program. Normally I have this music come up and start playing, and I start talking about how we're getting out of the end of the program, but I need to fix that. So is that two things I need to fix? No, one, I've got to fix the sound. Now, maybe the problem is a little harder than I thought, because I couldn't even get sound from Dan Dennett, right?
How they fit together, and
We did
why
get sound from-
it seems to be so much more than that bunch of tricks. Now,
Oh,
for a lot of
yes.
people,
Right.
the very suggestion that
Right,
that
there
might be
is
so
Dan Dennett.
is offensive or
I'm seeing
repugnant. They
sound
really
coming
don't
in
like that
from
idea.
Another
And,
camera, which I
they
don't
view it as
understand
an
what
assault,
that
sort of an
is.
assault on their dignity.
Well, that's the
or their
VIO. The
specialness.
VIO is, in fact,
And
sending sound in.
I think that's a
So let me
a
just go over here
prime
and
mistake.
click on it.
It's a mistake because it means if you
Like
think
that,
that way,
what's called a
you're going to
TVE.
systematically
Let me stop
ignore
here I can
the
switch
paths.
between that and myself. Are
Yes,
we
I
hearing
can.
anything? I wonder if I could just reverse the two. Maybe. Perhaps I can. Let's put me on 3 on SL here and 3 here. Okay, and now what I've done, with a little bit of luck, is to give myself a 2-screen arrangement so that off to your left, you can see that scrolling screen of different philosophers. Now, why have I done this work, and I guess more importantly, what does that mean to you today as we go forward with my information philosopher lectures online? 20 or so years ago, let's go back to 34 years ago, I designed and built the first desktop publishing program. I was a software developer for Apple, actually the 11th developer, and I wrote a program called a desktop publishing program. And the idea was that I would be able to prepare my own book, lay out my own book, and have it printed on demand someday in principle, and that's exactly where I am today. A book like Free Will, I wrote in 2009-2010 period, came out in 2011 when I was 75 years old. And this is, of course, a print book, but I have made this book available to you online for free on my website. Let me see how easily I might be able to find those books here. As we're a little distracted, let me just take it out of this double view and come here, over here to my input number 8. And this is the page on my website which describes the Free Will book, the Metaphysics book, the Great Problems book, which we mentioned, and my book on metaphysics. Let me now do something else with metaphysics. Let me just go to a very close-up shot of my metaphysics book and show you how I can give you a quick look at it. Like the others, it has a sort of standard format of great big title. In the case of Free Will, it was a very scandalous subject to me, I argued back in 2011, because I thought it really not helpful for professors, academics, teaching free will as something we do not have, that we are instead governed by the laws of nature, and those laws are deterministic, and scientists from biologists to neuroscientists to psychologists all thought talking. Here I am. Right. Wow, it's pretty high with this voice level. I've got to get it down to 10 or less. And it's going to, well, that's too much, isn't it? I've got too much. It's like, wow, it's suddenly gone rather bad. Let me turn on, make Dennett play again.
Exploration of research that might tend to confirm that. And you're going to hold out for mystery. You're going to hold out for more special.
Where are we hearing that sound right now?
And some people just can't help themselves. They
Where?
They can't take seriously.
Right there?
They won't take seriously.
It should be coming
the
out of
idea
that screen.
Consciousness
But I'm not.
is an amazing collection of
Okay.
mundane tricks in the brain.
So now
So I just can't imagine.
my time is running out,
You can't imagine.
and I've had a chance to show what we're doing to Holly. Now the question
I think
is that sound
the-
kind of
the
loud?
hidden
Let
gem
me
is not
stop
something
Dan.
often for all of this.
It's too loud, and I plan to run it down at about this 70% level so that my voice will be understandable on top of the music. Because the one I did yesterday, it was too strong. Now, the idea is if you watch the clock, they've now asked me not to shut off at 57 minutes, but to go all the way to 60 minutes, because CCTV says I can have the whole hour. They don't want to do anything with my last 3 minutes. They do that on some of the other channels, but on the live channel, they run it right up to 60. So it,
Maybe you don't want to turn the music on.
now the sound just went off.
The music went off.
Music, what's that about? I thought I reset it to play at 57.5 to 60.
You
No.
didn't reset the time when it goes off. apparently.
No, I know exactly what that is. That program that runs, I mean, it's still getting quite a bit of an echo. Look, where am I? Where's the sound coming out of, Holly? Can you walk around and find it? Something that turned off turned back on again, and it turned its sound on. And that's why we're having a problem. There should be no feedback of my sound. Should you walk around and put your ear near the monitors? I shouldn't think it would be there. I don't know where it is. Where is my voice coming out? Where is my voice coming out? Maybe the middle big screen is turned off. Back there? Yeah. Maybe you'll talk and I'll walk around if you want. Hello, hello. How about the back wall? Let me just turn volume down on the back wall. See, those screens are saying you're in front of them right now. They're both turned off, right?
Now you did it.
I did it? All right, let's turn it up and prove that that was the source of the feedback. Okay. Wow. You know what happened? Those two screens went off. Now how do I sound?
Fine.
Okay, it should just sound like me at the moment, although there's a little bit of an echo. Okay, so I have to go edit that script for my prompter and edit it to play the closing music at the last couple of minutes. I thought I had done that. Edit, countdown. Let me show you, since you're here, perhaps we are not, that free will is fundamentally an illusion. I thought it was a serious mistake when you're teaching free will to be an illusion. Okay, so back to great problems. But I can't bring it to see my book on metaphysics. Wow, something's broken. Let me see if I can get back. I had this all working, but you know, I've never seen so many problems as I just did have today. Why is that feeding back? I'll do it. Dissolve. Oh, that's kind of nice. I'm not sure I want to do this all the time, but you see that my metaphysics book is something that we will they're still up. Teach Look at that. On Thursday. I thought I turned them down. And then we can go up on this one. Friday, I can cut back to this one. I have not finished my fourth book on Albert Einstein, but I'm about halfway through, which means that if you go to my website and go to the link on books, at informationphilosopher.com/books.
Oh, wow.
You'll see
I'm not
the
sure.
3 books are published. They're on Amazon. They're also available to
Did I
you.
turn up the VIO?
Free downloads, PDFs.
Oh, I turned it down actually so that the music wasn't drowning me out. Oh, well, now it's gone back up again, so I'll turn it down a little bit. But still, there's feedback, right? You can hear the feedback, and I don't know where it's coming from.
Not coming from the back room?
Let's see. Maybe it is.
And I'm especially excited about the 4th book.
Oh, it is. So when I turn it up there, it goes up over there. That's the problem. See, when I turn it down here, it doesn't go. See, it's going away, right?
Ideas in
But what's happening, I guess, I'm just thinking, it's bouncing off that screen and turning up the back. Let's look in the back of the room. Watch. Look in the back of the room, Holly. I'm turning up this screen, the big screen, and look, it's turning up those.
discovered
Yes.
How am I going to eliminate that? I never had that problem. Okay, I'm going to write it down. Amazing.
all the other things that are normally associated with equation.
I guess it's sort of been like this every day. There's always been something that I... okay,
Whether you can
stop.
get one of them to respond to, I mean, have 2 different
Schedule.
signals going out.
See
What,
how- whether I can
does it have 2 different
up on the
frequencies
screen
that it
behind
can
me. That's
use
right.
and choose a different frequency for the front?
Mondays
and
going
Nope.
forward in the future.
you
Not
have
that I
to
know
have
of.
different,
Here in
Different screen.
standard time now. And from
That screen back there ought to be not responding.
book
Um,
Great Problems Philosophy, this one. And then on Tuesdays, I'll be talking with
I
material.
really have not noticed that
taken
problem,
from
but
my book on
it probably, possibly, see, I can't even touch that without turning the other one up.
Wednesdays.
I could do this, Holly. Let's try to do this. Let's try to mute the back walls.
Philosophers. So
Okay?
I've given you a little
You didn't
bit
mute
of
that one, right?
insight into
But if I turn it up,
been working in this
Yeah, but that
room.
usually
No, it goes.
You just start turning
Right.
it up.
right.
Being a Wednesday, we're going to talk a little bit about William James. who played
Gosh, you didn't see this happening earlier.
on free will.
You were listening to the room and it wasn't bad, but it's gotten really bad all of a sudden. I know, and it isn't all that loud. It's on, well, that's pretty loud. I was trying to run in the 25 area, and I turned this one off.
You see a lot of screens.
Could be. Let me turn it off. Well, I really don't.
Many screens
There's no
as
VIO.
cameras. So for each camera,
It says the
Oh,
VIO.
it's the
right
back
next
wall
to
you
it
have
that
up.
lets me see
Right.
So go to a different
cool
program.
things that let me
Put a
see
different
which
program
camera I'm
in.
on.
Now, why do I'm just bear with me for just a moment. I think I'll turn this off. See if that fixes
See
anything.
here, if I
So now I don't have.
eyes to camera
See, the
3,
VIO is actually playing something, right?
you have to come over to camera 4.
Yeah,
So
Okay, and you see the sound in it.
and I
Yeah.
realize, oh,
That's kind of interesting. That's helpful to me. So I can see the VIO sound in 8.
and I have a long view which shows the lighting system I designed.
Let me switch to
The look. The room
SR.
has a special look, a combination of screens and colored walls.
and play
I
that.
now have a tool that
Is
I've
the
yet
concern
to,
about free will.
really perfect.
I
which
think that
lets me
at the bottom of the
change
barrel,
the view of the
what
camera
people are really
automatically.
worried
So
about
I
is
can
that if we
zoom
have
in on
an
my
entirely naturalistic and ultimately, in a certain sense,
show you
mechanistic
that
at
I
the
have,
at the nano level, at the
my
protein
screen
level,
right
if we
now.
have a mechanistic theory of
There
consciousness,
it's bad.
this will show. I'm in a lot of trouble. I oh my can't gosh, we do don't have
Oh,
free will, will, tomorrow and then life has no meaning. with this situation. I can't be responsible for my best or worst deeds, and that doesn't follow. But fear that it would follow rattles people and deflects them from taking these ideas seriously because they really don't want them to be true.
Let's see.
My approach to that is to challenge that desire and say, no, everything you want
That's in.
or should want in the way of free will, you can have on this picture. There's some traditional notions of free will that turn out
Well,
to be
I don't know what to say.
tough. But why do you want them? They're not important. They are simply ill-founded desires, the varieties of free will worth wanting, you can have. And so take a deep breath, relax, and let's figure out how it's done. For billions of years on this planet, there was life, but no free will.
What's going on, Zoe?
Two screens in the room correspond to two Surface Pros. And my Surface Pro is set up with a different Skype account. And what's the purpose of my Skype accounts? By having two Skype accounts, I'm hoping to get philosophers and scientists.
Oh, yeah, and I didn't turn it off.
Damn it. Here on my show to log in to one of my Skype accounts, and I'll then be able to bring them up on the screen.
It's not stopping.
And